Hey everyone, it's 3 o'clock, and you know what that means? It's time to roll for combat.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Not bad, not bad,
Not bad. Not
not
bad.
bad,
Not bad.
not bad.
You know, it's nice to see
It's
that.
the way that you were just like so mocking of it as you did it added like 2 notches to it, I think.
Correct. Absolutely.
I got to come up with some intro. I got to be professional like Derek.
Oh, I'm very professional. You know, now that I'm a full-time streamer.
All right, no, we're called tubers.
Oh yeah, tubers. No,
You're an influencer.
I'm an influencer. Okay.
Who are you influencing?
I influence the Knights of Last Call.
There you go.
So
Yes,
it's
and
like
before-
it's a Mobius strip of influence.
Yes.
It's an Ouroboros of influence.
Yes.
So, Derek, are you more of a yam or a cassava? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I like sweet potatoes. Is that okay? And
In
yes,
terms of
before-
what tuber you are.
Right. Although I have become a big fan. I was a russet man, and then like obviously red potatoes. But recently, I've really been enjoying the Yukon Gold. Some people say it's flavorless, but I like the texture. In any case, I just want to say before things start, no, I was not assaulted at PAX. No, Steven did not punch me in the nose. I tripped and fell into a wall today. Over a dog toy, and I smashed my glasses into my nose, and that's why I have a Band-Aid on my nose.
You should have had a better story. Like people were just slapping you so much at PAX.
Right. Yeah, somebody came up and they were like, Pathfinder sucks, and I was like, don't you say that? I'll defend it with my life. And then they pulled out their Buster Sword, and we started dueling right there in the aisle.
Sounds good. They should have gone with that story as opposed to the lame one of tripping over a dog toy.
You know, hashtag truth over here, okay? The truth shall set you free.
The truth shall set you free.
Yeah, I didn't really get my voice back until like I was worried because I did a stream last night, but luckily it came back by then.
Meanwhile, your stream went up for like 4 hours.
It was cool. That's a cool game.
He was worried that he could only talk for 4 hours
I know.
instead of 6.
I kept looking and it was still going. I'm just like, oh my god, it's still
What
going.
game was it that was cool for 4 hours?
We did Mythic Bastion Land from Chris McDowell.
Ah,
Oh, I know, Chris.
And I was saying I sat across from him at Buca de Beppo last year at the influencer dinner, Stephen.
Oh no, that was
or
called
the
My
tuber.
Dinner. My Dinner.
If you recall, I think you and I like split that because we were tired of everybody pixel bitching over the money. I remember
it was like
I remember
all
just being
those are
like-
like it's so
no, I remember just being
ridiculous.
like, what's the total? Just put it on my card. I was like, I just so over it. I was like, I didn't even care.
Ugh.
Like,
Unfortunately,
come
I seem to have to lead the Gen Con crowd every year because no one can get there.
Well,
it's,
they're
it's hard
together.
to organize that many people.
Not
Right,
for
they're
me, it's not.
no, or you know anybody else. But you know they're too busy. They're too busy influencing. You know to do
I
it.
guess. I mean, there was like 30 something or 20 something.
There was a
lot
lot
of
of people.
Yeah, Kelsey pays for dinner. Kelsey pays for dinner every. Actually, no, that one I think
Kelsey was
pays
not
for.
at that dinner.
No, that one she wasn't at.
No, she was at the one after the Ennies, and she did pick up the check
that
in the
one.
round
That
for
was
that.
the bar
Yeah.
thing that we.
And then the first dinner, Dungeon Coach paid for
Dungeon
because
Coach
he
picked
had
it
the
up.
$1 million Kickstarter.
2 million, and because we pressured him.
Right.
Well, I pressured him.
Well, yes. Come on, you can't do $1 million plus
That's
on a
the rule.
Kickstarter and not pay.
So
That's the rule
the
now.
rule. Yeah,
Yes,
and now
exactly.
Kelsey's gonna have to pick it up for her own
Right.
birthday.
That's why my strategy, if I ever do a Kickstarter, is to make sure it does poorly enough that I never have to pay.
Or you
Well-
just go right under. You're like 999,000.
Well, I was thinking more like 25,000. But yes.
Oh well, I don't think you have any
that
trouble.
would fit with your sort of aesthetic
would.
of just claiming to be bad at business, but still, being pretty successful with some of the stuff you do.
To be clear, I am successful in spite of myself, not because
Fair
of
enough.
myself. Yeah.
No.
In fact, you may be successful because people want to spite yourself.
That is true. The number one thing that people like giving me money for is to upset me.
So
So
just
Jackal Torn Moons gave $5 to me for being an honorary member of the NRGM Council.
Yes, that's the Northern Reaches GM Council. Because the aforementioned debate had spread with like wildfire into the Northern Reaches community, Mark. Lines were drawn, bloods were drawn. Duels, there was going to be duels to character death to decide which was accurate, which interpretation.
Those are exactly the times you don't want to bring in a game designer's opinion, because people have already drawn their lines in the sand, and that's just going to make the people madder who have the other opinion.
And that's exactly what I told them. I was like, Mark would be the first to tell you that it's very dangerous to do this, because then it kind of gives people this sort of moral high ground to sort of say, oh, see, so-and-so actually said blah, blah, blah.
I like blah,
but
blah, blah.
I feel like you can just make your own decision on those ambiguous things. There's the one that I like. There's the one that I read at first, which is the other way. That's just how you do it.
Mark, have you met any Pathfinder 2 players? You just used the word make your own decision / ambiguous /
Wait, hold on. There's a lot of things that say at the GM's discretion, or the GM determines.
Yes, the things that are explicitly allowed for the GM to make the decision. Those are the only things.
No, but the rules say that the GM makes decisions when things are ambiguous, and that you can also use certain guiding principles, such as the too good to be or too bad to be true rules.
All right, new rule. I am going to sudden charge for one action, and that's my interpretation of the feat.
There you go. Well, if everyone's interpreted that it might have been too bad to be true at 2 actions, and maybe it was a typo, but honestly, there could be a typo of the glyph. I've seen like a reaction put onto an action by mistake or something like that. So
but I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go to Reddit, and I'm going to complain about how overpowered this feat is, and how
you could do
Pathfinder 2 is broken, and how my one player is just able to destroy everybody. And then they're going to go, well, why is that? I'm like, well, sudden charge is so powerful. And they're like, he's doing it for one action. Why? Well, because my GM said it would be cooler that way. And everyone's going to go, your GM is wrong. And he's like, well, no, it's Mark Seifter said it's up to my table's interpretation.
It's up to your interpretation, Derek. Now, if you were at my table, I would say that's too good to be true, that you're going to take 2 strides and an attack for a strike for one action. That just seems kind of outrageous. But if the whole table thinks that it was too weak at its original version, then that's a different story. But it sounds like your table doesn't think it was too weak, because they now think it's overpowered.
Yeah.
So, by the way, for people that don't know, we just spent a week together,
Yes,
all
we
3
did.
of us,
Yes,
at
we did.
PAX East, and we decided we couldn't get enough of each other. That we decided to do the stream.
Now we're back to answer an age-old question about what everyone kind of always asks about, whether the big company is out of ideas or they can't think of anything else. We'll get to that, but Steven has some mini topics.
Well, first, the super mini topic, the surprise mini topic is Derek Melinda, first time ever, working a booth at a convention.
Yes.
What did you think?
My feet hurt.
Your feet hurt, yeah. I'm still tired.
Did you get shoe inserts?
I did.
I thought you did.
Yeah, Thursday was brutal. And then that night, we went to CVS, and I got gel inserts, and Friday was a lot better. And then I think by Saturday, too, I was just kind of getting more used to it, because, I don't normally spend 10 hours a day on my feet. But, it was cool getting to meet a lot of people, for sure. I mean, I think estimates vary, but I think probably we had at least 8,000 people through the booth, maybe.
Wait, did we?
No, we had
But how many cards did we have?
I thought we did. I thought we did
like 3,000.
I thought we did. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was like 4,000.
No. Well, we have 4,000 cards. We didn't run out of cards. You gave out maybe almost 3,000 cards, but then people came in. So we'll say 2,500 to 3,000 people.
Okay. Yeah, I keep thinking the boxes had 800 cards, but they had 400 cards, because I was going based off of how many boxes of cards I gave out.
You went through a lot of boxes.
Right. And I said, I think I went through about 10. That's why I was coming up with roughly that 4,000 number.
Yeah.
But so that was really great. What I thought was really interesting was 3 things. One, how many people at least sort of knew D&D, even if they didn't play D&D. Obviously, a lot of them were like, oh, I play Baldur's Gate 3. So like they were at least tacitly aware of it, or they would say things like, no, I haven't played yet, or, oh, I'm really, we want to play, or something like that. Second, and I think you guys made a notice of this as well, how many people, shockingly, now 5e books sold a lot better than Pathfinder 2 books. There's no doubt about that. But so many people were saying, oh, I play both. Or I run one and I play the other.
On Thursday, it was everyone. Every single person played both. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was like 90% D&D.
And then, but again, and the other thing I made a comment of, which was kind of interesting for me. Obviously, I've seen the change in Gen Con over the years, but especially PAX, being more sort of video gamey and nerd adjacent, really, really happy to see how diverse it was. It wasn't 50-50 like male female, but it was close. It was like probably like 60-40 or something like that. There was a lot of representation of a lot of different cultures and genders and peoples there, and that was really, really cool. And overall, I actually do have to make a video. I'm going to apologize to Gen Con for a couple of things because I've been shitting on them a little bit, but on the basis, and I say this as someone who goes to Gen Con, I think the PAX people were just nicer, better people than the gamers at Gen Con. Sorry, RPGers, we suck. I mean, the PAX people were cool. They were nice.
They were extremely nice. Every single person said thank you. Genuinely said thank you after we gave them a sticker.
Super polite and just super polite and super generous and super accommodating, and nobody was pushy. And I mean,
people were out of their way nice. Yes. It was like kind of surprising.
I've seen some shenanigans.
Oh, I was ready to throw down, baby.
I've seen some shenanigans at Gen Con, where...
Oh, I've seen shenanigans, yeah. Definitely.
Where, like I'm saying, like where people push people and people are like debating about who gets what. I mean, I've seen some nasty attitudes and some self-entitled attitudes. These people were nice. They were really cool. And the PAX people really seemed to take care of us. I mean, they had like a literal army of PAX support teams, these enforcers. We had one assigned to our table, and he kept stopping by to make sure we needed anything, or was there anything we could get, or if we needed help with anything. They were all over the hall to help people. It was a really cool experience. So overall, I thought it was kind of sweet.
Yeah,
I'm interested to go to PAX Unplugged, because obviously that'll be more of a gaming,
very different.
My type of gaming influence.
That'll be interesting because I guess it's still under the PAX umbrella, but it's more of board game, card game, and tabletop.
It's the same people. I'm talking to them now. It's the exact same crew that runs it. So, by the way,
I did feel like the PAX enforcers, at least from my dealings with like Gen Con staffers versus PAX enforcers, the PAX enforcers seemed to be, I would say, friendlier, nicer. Even when they did have to come to
yell at us,
warning about the stickers. They didn't yell, they just said,
no. That's what I'm saying. Like Gen Con, I think they would have been jerks about it, and these people were super understanding and super cool. And I have a friend who's been doing the Gen Con volunteer program for years, like over a decade, and now she's like a senior volunteer member. But I'm going to say that a lot of people who volunteer at Gen Con, and if you do that, I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm just saying in general, and I remember I've been going to Gen Con for over 20 years. A lot of people volunteer and they do not give a shit. They are there to get their free badge. They are there to get their heavily subsidized room. And they are there to it's like a prison sentence. It's like getting assigned to highway, garbage duty. They are just there to do the bare minimum to get their badge so that they can go and play.
You know what, Derek? I'd be okay if that was the worst that you came across, but there are some people who let their status at Gen Con be like a power trip for them, and that are like super jerks. And this is like the con staff, and just a few of them, right? Most of the people are perfectly fine, but just even having just one, it's like awful. There was one where my brother had his badge stolen when he was at in the bathroom, and when we came back, like the Gen Con staff member, like he was 13 years old at the time, dragged him out of the game that he was in, chastised the GM for allowing him to try to finish the game, and then sent him back and forth between two different groupings of the Gen Con staff, each of which didn't want to tell a 13-year-old that you're screwed. So they would just no, go to this other one. He was like, that's just where I was. Mm-hmm. And they kept sending him back and forth until eventually they're like, yeah, you're gone. You have to buy another one. Badge. What about the guy who stole it from me? It's like, he has it now, so he can go to the con. It was like, in Pathfinder, the River Kingdoms, they have the freedom, you have what you hold from Kingmaker, where it's just like whoever has it now, that's how badges work, I guess.
Right, exactly. So, whereas the enforcers felt like a genuine community. And again, it is and unfortunately, it is one of those things where most of the people who volunteer at Gen Con do a fine job. But when you're in that position, you are in essential. I mean, you don't interact with Peter Adkison. You don't interact with the staff of Gen Con. So that is the very much the public facing. That's the interface between the public and the institution. And when you get a couple of bad actors or a couple of bad instances of customer service in that respect, it could really have an outsized influence on your thought process. Whereas again, with the enforcers, and I saw the enforcers viewed as a resource. So the term enforcer is actually rather funny because
it is kind of funny. Honestly, we were eating at the North End with our friends, and it's like the Little Italy part of Boston. We were at this like old pizzeria, and we were talking about something that was PAX related with like one of the rules that was in place in different PAXs, and he's like, I'll go talk to my buddy who's an enforcer. And I said to him, I turned to him, I said, when somebody at this restaurant says that they're going to talk to their buddy who's an enforcer, they usually probably don't mean the same thing that you do.
So yeah, it was fun. I'm obviously, it gets me hyped for Origins, which I'm going to here in a month, and excited to do that. Tentatively excited for Gen Con. Again, I'm going to do a short video. Not a live stream, just a short video, because I have a couple of things to say. But, I can say them here because it's Rule for Combat in school. But because there's actually two things that I was complaining about that they are at least attempting to fix at Gen Con. So the first is I can literally be on record as bitching about the convention hall being, especially the dealer hall, being way too congested. And part of the problem being people with double wide strollers, wagons, roller carts, roller bags, those like stackable containers that are on a freaking dolly, and people are just dragging these things through an already crowded hall. And then Mr. Glicker sends me the Gen Con update where they basically said, these are all banned.
All banned. And on top of that, they said if you bring a stroller, it has to have a kid in it, and you can't use it to carry around your products.
That's because gamers will exploit. You're gonna have some unmarried, single kid, 24 years old. He's gonna have a stroller, no baby. He's like, hey, you said I could bring a stroller. You didn't say it had to have a kid. The second thing, now, to be clear, this is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a clusterfuck. It's too expensive, and I don't think it's going to work. But at least they're trying, sort of. Is apparently they have hired, or another company offered, they're going to be a third party, so it's not being done by Gen Con, which is very smart of them because it's a liability nightmare, who is going to be offering on-site bag storage.
Wait, we just talked about that.
I know we did.
That's weird. Yes. That's a weird coincidence.
Yeah, so we were talking about that over the weekend, and that was in the update as well. Now, there's a lot of...
I think someone's spying on us. Everything we talked about just came true.
Now, there's a lot of caveats. There's a lot of caveats to this. Like, it's too expensive. It's like $20 a bag, and
that's what it costs.
I know. I'm just saying, but they won't hold it overnight, and you have to come back. Well, the biggest problem is going to be everyone is going to want to be dropping off and picking up at the same time. It'd be one thing if it was spread out throughout the course of the day, but when the hall closes, every single fucking person is going to go there, and they're going to want to pick up their bag from the locker. So but you know what? Gen Con's basically like, not our problem. And then there's also the liability. Imagine the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of goods that are going to be sort of probably, in a perfect world, you'd like to think of this as literal lockers, but we all know it's just going to be some tables on a back room somewhere.
No, I know what it is. No, I already know what it is. I already know what it is. So... if you have your bingo card, you can mark your bingo card. This is when Steve brings up the Mets. So if you go to a Met game, if you go to any baseball game, well, because this is what they have. So at baseball games and sporting events in New York, they have a truck. It's a big truck. And people come from work a lot, and you're not allowed to... well, they changed the rule this year. Actually, now you're allowed to bring your laptop. But you're not allowed to bring big bags in. So they have a truck, and you can check your bag. And then they give you a ticket. And that's it. And then at the end, you go get it. But let me tell you, Derek, I went with my friend, and this is during a playoff game, so there's over 50,000 people at the game, and no one left early. And guess what? Everyone had to go get their bag at the end of the game. So, yeah, there was a line, but to give credit, it went pretty fast. So that is the caveat, that you're going to have to wait to get your stuff. And I guarantee it's probably going to be that, because it's usually... I've seen these at other events. It's a truck. It's a very large truck, and then that's how they keep all your stuff. I guarantee they hired this probably like some nationwide company because they just go from place to place and then they do it. And yeah, it's same rules. It's like if you don't check, you have to get it by like midnight or X amount of time after the thing closes. If it's still there, we keep it or we throw it out or auction. There's all this liability. Like it's like if you don't get it, we keep it or it's gone. So
apparently, I guess they won't keep it, but you can pick it up the next day. But I guess they'll charge you an additional surcharge, or something like that. So
okay, that's fair.
But yeah, so that's two things that I bitched about at Gen Con not having, especially as they grew in size.
And we bitched just days ago about both these.
So Derek, all you have to do is now just start your wish list, because apparently they're spying on you and they're gonna fix them. So come up with 5 more things for them to fix.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess I'm gonna make a quick video as well, because I want to highlight some of the differences between PAX and Gen Con, and there are some things about Gen Con that I think is superior, both from a location perspective as well as like an organizational perspective. And again, some of these fixes I think are going to make for a better experience, at least for me personally.
Also, I saw a picture of the hotel across the street from Gen Con. It's like pretty close to done. It's actually like really far along. So
and yet not done. So
all right. Well, we did the super mini topic. It only took 20 minutes. What other mini topics do we have?
Well, real quick mini topic, because everyone's going to ask about it, is the tariff stuff. So real quick, I'll just tell you the rule now. So the rule went from, it's 145, but I'll tell you what it is. So it's actually 30%. It's not 10%. And so now if you get anything from China, you have to pay 30% tariff. It's basically, there's a 20% fentanyl tariff and then the 10% tariff. But here's the crazy part. The first crazy part is everyone who is in China who I work with wrote me and says, hey, the tariffs are down. Hurry up, get your stuff, like rushing us because...
Well, because there's only 90 days, right? Until it
they're not. Yeah, I know, but they already said they're not going to raise them again.
It is a moratorium. It is a temporary thing. It's
not. But what's more fascinating to me is that there's literally a million lawsuits going through because these tariffs are illegal. And the only way you're allowed to do tariffs is if you're at war. Right. And supposedly, this is, quote, the war on drugs. So we now are at war with every single country in the world except North Korea and Russia. They're the only ones accepted from these tariffs. And not only are people charging and suing for the tariffs being illegal and they can't be done by the president, they have to be done by Congress, but they want their money back. Because imagine you just got something in and you just paid hundreds of thousands. I mean, they've collected a couple of billion in tariffs on the 145 and now went back down and it's illegal. It's like, well, you owe us your money. And precedent is they will probably, well, it depends. It depends on the court and where it is, but they
are not going to win.
No. Who's they?
They
being,
okay. You know what?
The
actually,
states,
let me
back
that up. They might win.
They're
never going to see a fucking dollar.
They will.
No, they won't.
Yeah, they will. I think they will.
They won't. They won't.
I get a lot of checks from the government, let me tell you, on all these things. It takes a while, but they do show up. I tell you.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, it's a long... It might take 5 years, but it'll happen. But anyhow, my point being...
Government changes and shifts too. Even if somebody says, let's illegally not pay these things that the judge said to pay and just be in contempt of court, if the next administration might be, one of our promises is we'll pay these outstanding things that any administration would need to pay to follow the rule of law. And then maybe they will.
But anyhow, the point is that it's down to 30%, which still isn't great, by the way, because... for games, it was 0. Okay, so they went from 0% to 30%.
Right,
but
30% is like if you were buying your game product for $60, now it will be almost $80.
Yeah, I mean it's still going to be a lot, and books it's still 7.5%. Thank God.
Right, so this is really only affecting, and also I'm going to say something here.
Everyone.
I'm going to say this here also, because we were talking about this, and then we were talking about some stuff, Stephen. But then also somebody posted, because they just got their Karen 2nd edition box set.
Yeah.
And I realized that, and they're very smart people, so props to you. So I was thinking about this. It was like, why is this so popular? And then I realized because all of these small publishers / indie publishers / OSR publishers / new SR publishers, they make a game system that is like 5 pages long and is literally the size of a pamphlet. I have Karn First Edition back here on my shelf. It's hard to find because it's so small. And it's like, well, how do you make any money of that? You turn it into a box set, right? You put in a bunch of miscellaneous shit, and then you make it into this big thing, and then you could sell it for $100. And so all of these small publishers who shouldn't be affected by this at all because they're basically making small little books. There's no, bits and bops and boops, but they've all gone to the box set route because it's the only way that they can jack up their price. And then they were getting destroyed by the tariffs because now it's not a book.
Yep.
So
well, that's it. Actually, I talked to I'm talking to all my people, and they are like, the rule was, and I literally have an email. It's like, if it's a book, 7.5%. Put that book in a box, it's 145%. So I'm like, that was it. I was like, okay, I guess no boxes for me.
And it's funny because I was looking at Mythic Bastion Land, and I was like, what, because I was like, oh, this is really cool. I definitely kickstarted this, and I checked it out, and I was that's how I got the PDF, and I was like, yes, Chris had two backer options. There was the PDF option, and then there was the PDF plus book option, and that's it.
Yeah. The other thing is, for our next one, for the Shadow Dark one, we're just doing books and cards, but I'm not going to do any boxes or anything. But already, because China. As Derek and I, China. They're very smart, and they already are setting up. I'm already talking to them. They're already setting up, not manufacturers, but companies in here that will put your products together. So you'll be able to buy your components separately, because normally they do it in China and then they ship it. They're just literally the actual publishers are setting, because everything goes to like 3 ports pretty much. So
right, it's like Seattle, LA, and
New York.
New York.
Yeah. That's like the 3 main ports. Just like also Southern Florida also has one, but those are like pretty much the main ports. And they're just going to set up centers where they put things together so that you get tariffs the lower amount, and then they put it here and then they ship it. Like they're already going. They're going to get paid. Like they're not going to go out of business because they're too smart and they're going to figure this out. So, and they already have everything set up. So they're like, all right, we'll just do the combination here instead of there. Like I'm already hearing all that, and yeah, it's yeah. Anyhow, what's interesting is the Dominus is going down to 50. It's going to basically $100. Which is actually
from 800 to 100 on
no. That you would get paid. You would have to pay nothing on anything shipped for under $800. You pay nothing, and then were going to.
It's going down to 100.
The fee is going to go down to $100. So the de minimis fee was up to 154%, 145%, or $200. I think whichever was greater. It's very confusing, but quite frankly, I was also reading that the New York Post, like the United States Post Office and all these places aren't even collecting it because they have no means to collect it. So they're kind of ignoring it because they do not have any infrastructure to start collecting billions of dollars on all these small packages. They just don't. There's no way to do it. So a lot of them are just
very arbitrary. Like the shipment comes in and then like the port inspector kind of like looks at it and like checks the product code and what they said it was made for,
well,
and then they sort of just
everything.
Arbitrarily say, it goes into this category. You owe me this much money.
Well, that's for big shipments. I'm talking about the $800 or less.
Oh, okay.
$800 or less is just.
In other words, drop shipping is back.
Drop shipping is back. That's right. I definitely saw someone opened up one of my books. I'll tell you.
All right, Temu, you're back.
They actually stopped. Literally said that they stopped. Well, I got a shipment the other day from my printer. It was just proofs, and it was torn open and resealed, and it was resealed by the United States. It actually had like the tape. I was like, really? It's like I'm setting like 5 pieces of paper. It was like this thick. It was like an envelope, and I was like, you ripped open an envelope to see what was in it.
Steve, that could have been fentanyl responsible for the deaths of nearly 275 million Americans. Okay.
Well, yeah. That's the thing also. I love how they're like, we're at war on drugs, therefore we can tax every single person in the entire world, no matter where you live. The Vatican City, fentanyl, they get a tariff.
Drugs are bad, okay? Okay.
Drugs are bad. I'm actually watching South Park son right here. Drugs are bad. Okay. Okay.
I haven't watched South Park since like 1998, but
Oh, I love South
I do know that part.
Okay.
All right. Agile Monk super chatted, and it's towards me. Great topic today. By the way, Derek, what happened to your nose, brother? You okay? Did the game get out of control? No, unfortunately, I did say at the beginning of the stream, I tripped and fell over a dog toy this morning, smashed into a wall, and the bridge of my glasses gouged out the top of my nose. So rather than having you guys see a nice bloody scab thing, we have a bandage.
So, haircut. Half an hour in, we're following up the topic. So, I'm going to tell you why I thought of this topic. 2 reasons. One, Sinners is a movie that just came out. It's doing really well in the box office. It actually made $200 million, okay? $200 million domestically. And this is the first original movie to make $200 million in the United States since the year 2017. So think about that. A movie in the United States that's original topic has not made more than that much money. And the one before that was like Avatar or something. Like, it's just like nothing original makes money. And then I'm looking at the release schedule for D&D. And, you know, they have the Dragon Delves. That, you know, I could say that's original-ish. You have the Eberron. All right, well, it's Eberron. D&D Starters, that doesn't really count. Forgotten Realms Player's Guide, which is all Baldur's Gate 3 and all that stuff. Forgotten Realms Adventure Guide, that's all Baldur's Gate 3 adventure stuff. But the thing is, they have a mystery product coming out in October that they didn't announce, and then they just released their latest playtest. What is it? Unearthed Arcana, and the Unearthed Arcana playtest is all undead horror stuff. So everyone's thinking, oh, here we go. Where we joked about this, Derek? Ravenloft, it's coming back, baby.
so can I say my hot take?
They're coming back, and there's a Ravenloft book coming out. So
my hot take is that 5e has done nothing original ever. So you can't have anything. It is D&D running out of ideas. Yeah, because D&D already ran out of ideas. And the reason I say that is because, and someone pointed out to me, now, as far as we could tell, we did like kind of a forensic deep dive. The only thing that 5e has come out with that was kind of in its own way truly original and not already based off of some already established brand IP nostalgic thing was Radiant Citadel.
I was going to say Radiant Citadel was obvious that it was original, and it didn't do as well as
it did not do as well.
It weren't original.
But even 3rd edition had things like Eberron was a brand new concept, brand new thing, brand new classes. 4th edition had the, points of light setting, which was never official, but at least they were doing something new. Everything in 5th edition has been either it's been old callbacks to established IP, which is either designed to hook nostalgia from older players or to like feel like D&D from like a brand awareness perspective. It's like, oh, Strahd, that means D&D, the way that Beholder means D&D. And everything is just the same things over and over again. And then, there have been things that are new to D&D, but like Exandria, well, I mean, that's just taken from Critical Role. And like all the Magic the Gathering settings like Theros or Ravnica, I mean, that's just taken from Magic the Gathering. That's just universes beyond D&D. So I don't really I certainly don't count that as new or innovative. So from like a setting perspective, nothing new. And then from a game perspective, I mean, I guess maybe there's probably a handful of weird ancestries maybe that they've come up with. Like, I don't know, like the Tortola or something that I guess is new. But like the classes, I mean, Warlock has been around forever. Artificer, that's been around forever. To say nothing of Barbarian and Paladin and all these other classes. Like, there's just nothing new. The whole game is just a rehash of already established game mechanics, already established game IP, already established functions, ideas. Hey, let's do another Ravenclaw adventure. Hey, Tiamat's cool, and people kind of sort of know what that is. Let's make a whole adventure based around her. Hey, Tomb of Annihilation. That means something to something. That means something to you if you fucking were playing D&D in 1978. Well, let's make an adventure about that. And people go, oh, I heard about this. They said the thing. They said the thing. And then,
That's my favorite meme, by
Derek,
the
way. I'm going to agree with 90% of your supporting evidence while disagreeing with your thesis.
Okay.
So I believe that D&D is not out of new ideas. The people who work on D&D I know like a good number of them. They're extremely creative people.
Everyone that was left is an ex-Paizo employee.
Well, I mean, even of the people who were leaving that were senior, who maybe I don't know as much personally, I know they're creative. And whoever's replacing them, that's bringing in new blood. That also brings in new ideas. But your supporting evidence is the reason why, despite the fact that the people who are in there have new ideas, we will never see them. Radiant Citadel is probably another reason why it didn't do well.
It didn't do well.
Right? They managed to somehow convince the executives to put something that was pretty new on the schedule. But the problem is people have all these new ideas, but then you tell the executives and the marketing people, and they're like, okay, but if it was Strahd, we would sell 5 times more.
That's exactly right.
And so this has been so perennial. Every time I've looked at like a big company versus small companies, it's Paizo, WoTC, people are always asking. They would ask, like, why are the third-party companies coming up with so much more innovative and unusual new content than the company that actually makes the game? Is it because the people who are at the main company aren't creative enough? They don't have enough skill to have done that? It's like, no, that's not why. They could have done it. The problem is this: when you make a creative new niche thing, you're making that for some segment of your base who's probably going to love it. In fact, some of those things from third edition, just that were niche books, let's say not Eberron, but just like smaller niche books that might not have done well for them during third edition, now have people who remember them decades later fondly. But the problem with that is that when you're the big company, that's sort of not okay for your big release. You want something that everyone will buy, and therefore it's like almost like fast food in the sense that it needs to be something that triggers and targets everyone. Whereas the small third-party company can make something so bizarre and unusual, innovative, that you're like, whoa, I've never seen something like this. And maybe it's not for most people, but it'll sell enough for the third-party company to be happy, whereas Hasbro or WoTC or even Paizo never would be with those sales.
But I know people like to throw the company under the bus here, because I agree with you. There's creative people there, and I'm sure they could come up with stuff. But it's very easy, and I see chat doing it, right? They're like, yeah, they're really creative, and the executives will never let them do it. No, we just talked about this. When they do it, the market, the people, the customers, you don't buy it.
Yeah, it's not just the executives' fault. It's also the customers. It's also like the designers will self-censor. I've seen it, and they were probably right to do so. Right? So, like, if they knew it was going to fail.
Yeah. So the problem is, is it the executive's fault? Is it the company's fault that when they rehash Strahd for the 50th time, that book sells 10 times more copies than the other book? Is the executive forcing you to buy the 5th Strahd book? No, because that's what people are buying. That's what people want. I'm channeling my inner Professor Dungeon Master here, where I basically say, it's your fault that clickbait exists because you guys click on it. So like, as a company, their job is to sell stuff and to sell stuff that their customers want. I'm not a publisher. I'm not a designer. But I'd like to think that if this is how you know I'm a bad business person, because I'm like, I would love to design a book that no one would ever buy, but I would be happy with it. That's just a quick fire way to go out of business, So you do have to sort of, make a decision. I mean, you can extol or you can condemn the virtues or vices of capitalism all you want, but fundamentally, at the end of the day, you are trying to make books that people do want at some level.
It's easy to blame the executives. Yeah. And look, sometimes it is the executives or someone from another department, right? Marketing, something like that. But I've seen meetings where the creative idea gets replaced with the safe idea that don't even include executives. It just happens before the executives are even offered the idea. And you know what? Sometimes that safe idea sells great and is lauded afterwards by the fan base as being a good book, even though it was a safe idea that maybe didn't retread a lot of new grounds. Whereas the creative ideas have like a cult following, but also like sell like 1/10 as much sometimes, right? It's a dangerous gamble.
all these
for a
people,
big company.
all these people in chat, this has been your chat for like months, maybe even years, where people are just like Dark Sun, and I'm like, do you know how few copies of Dark Sun they would sell if they sold it, regardless of whether they cleaned it up or they sanitized it or if they whitewashed it or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, if they made Dark Sun, cleaned up, or if they made Dark Sun full on, brutal tyranny, slavery, whatever. It doesn't matter. That it would sell like nothing.
It would sell horribly.
It would sell fine, but not WoTC
No,
fine.
it would sell horribly.
It would sell horribly, and rightfully so, because nobody wants to play that. Nobody wanted to play it. Newsflash for all you Dark Sun lovers out there, who probably, by the way, never fucking even played the setting, so shut up. But like, it didn't sell well in the 90s either. So, like, if it didn't sell well in the 90s during AD&D second edition, it's definitely not going to sell in 2025. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Trust me. It's so many times that I'll give you an example. I mean, this is my own fault, but like, we're doing minis for our latest Kickstarter, and so many people asked for them over and over and over and over and over again. And then we did them. They didn't really sell. So I'm like, it's just the same people wanted it, and they got it. So when the 50 people who wanted it got their minis, they're done. And then that was it, So it's, again, it's not what the 50 people want. It's what the 5,000 people want.
And it's very difficult to get that information.
It's very hard.
It's a big company. Hard. Sometimes you have to paint in very broad strokes in a way that's not great, because maybe it would cost like tons of money to pay a firm to do the market research to figure out what creative idea you could do that actually would sell, that isn't a huge gamble. Whereas for free, that if you do a return to some super classic thing that everybody loved back in the day, chances are that what they loved about it's still there. The people who already love it will come back for it. And that you've got a much more likely winner without paying, it could be high 5 figures, even to 6 figures, if you're trying to get like a really sweeping survey that like gets tons of people in it and is very sophisticated.
I mean, that happens all the time, by the way. Like there's endless stories of like, we thought the market research supported this, and then it didn't. And then there's also the other way of like, no one wanted this. Baldur's Gate 3 is a perfect example. Like, if you on paper said an isometric 3-dimensional party game that's beyond old school, that really only works on PCs and has to kind of be jerry-rigged to work on consoles, they'll sell at best okay, if that. And here's the crazy part. We actually have documentation of this, because so when Microsoft does, and this came out in court documents, is Microsoft, when they put things on Game Pass, they pay a fee to that company to put it on Game Pass, because it's considered lost sales, because now people will like buy it or use it on Game Pass and then they won't buy it. So, and Game Pass is like, you pay a fee. It's like Netflix, basically. So you pay a fee. You pay like $15-$20 a month.
It's gas, right? Games as a service.
Yeah, it's games as a service. And I love it. I use it all the time. But
you will own nothing and love it.
Well, I don't go back to my games. And by the time I want to go buy it again, that $50 game, I'll be able to buy for $3.
Right, that's true.
So, see? Thought that through. Anyhow, they did analysis of all these games and how much they would pay for them. And some games are like in the, 10, 50, 100 million, some are like, 100 million, how much they pay to get the exclusivity rights. And then they get the exclusivity rights for like half a year, 2 years, whatever. And they had Baldur's Gate 3, and they basically were like, almost like, 5 million. Like they were like the lowest tier almost. It was like, no one's gonna buy this. And this just shows you, like, really,
and it's like over, like, I think I was reading something about it, like it's over 10 million. Units,
but it
right?
made over $2 billion so far.
Right.
So, and and that's one of those, we talked about it. There's certain games that go into the Everlast moment, by the way. Yeah. They're going into that. They're becoming evergreen. Oh, by the way, remember we were talking about Grand Theft Auto over the weekend? Yes. I just heard Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold. Remember, we're talking how much money it's going to make. Grand Theft
Well,
Auto.
we're talking about Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yes, but Grand Theft Auto 5. It's been out for 12 years.
12 years.
It sold like 240 million copies. 2 out of 3 human beings in America have bought Grand Theft Auto. Not adults.
Wait, 240 million, right?
Yes.
I thought you said billion. I was
No, million.
That's
Dude,
impossible.
240 million.
Million is already
That
ridiculous.
is like they were saying that has sold more than like entire like all the Marios combined, like all these other franchises. You take all their games combined.
Yeah.
It's like, when they show Africa and you put like every country in it. It's like that's how big it is. That's Grand Theft Auto. It's like you take every other game and put it in here, and it still doesn't equal what one game has sold.
Well, again, like I said, I mean, I was reading something where they said, Larian's like we believe we've had over 10 million people to play Baldur's Gate 3, and I think the number is it's like the number of people who play D&D is 50 million, a little over 50 lifetime, like since 1974.
Yeah.
So that means in 50 years of D&D, 50 million people have played D&D, and 10 million people have played Baldur's Gate 3 in just like the last, year or two. So
yeah,
it is a stark difference of size.
Even people at PAX were talking me that they got into it because of Baldur's Gate. Like they got
there were a few when I asked them if they played D&D. They're like, no, but I played some Baldur's Gate 3.
Right. So it's like trickle down gameonomics.
It is.
Well,
And
so you're like, oh, TTRPGs. What do you go after? We go after the scraps, like.
Oh, that's where we are. We're the bottom feeders.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cockroaches at the bottom of Larian Studios' table, just like.
That's us. We're like,
yeah, please. You know why? Because a rounding error from Larian's checking account is probably more than most gaming studios do in their lifetime.
Oh yeah. Yeah. By the way, that new D&D novel came out yesterday, by the way, the Ravenloft Heir to Strahd. So I guess we can kind of guess where this, if they're coming out with a game. It is, here we go. They're going, fairest friends, I pray you accept our humble hospitality and dine with me tonight at Castle Ravenloft. It's rare we receive visitors, and I do so endeavor to make your acquaintance. The carriage shall arrive. The carriage shall bear you to the castle safely. I await your arrival with pleasure. And it is actually not, let's see, Strahd, but the heir to Strahd, or they're looking for the heir.
You know what makes Strahd so boring? It's not that Strahd is boring. It's that Strahd, as we know it from 5th edition, is number one. It's just a copy of literally of an existing game, right? Like Ravenloft, which was a module in 3rd edition, which was a campaign setting in 2nd edition, which was a module in 1st edition. But here's the worst part. It's just a fucking copy of Dracula.
Yeah.
It's Dracula and D&D.
Well, not the only reason, but one of the main reasons why, because I was there, is that I got Strahd. And what everyone was talking about was not the adventure.
It was the fucking tarot cards.
It was the map.
Oh, yes, the isometric map.
The map was like mind-boggling at the time, because it was like 3D map.
Right,
of Castle.
the map is very cool. In the original,
but back then it's like
back then it was like Revolution.
No, it was like Avatar. It was like that Revolution. It was like, oh my god, what is this? How they do this?
And poor kid, the story of Dracula is cool, but I'm like, let's not act like it's like, oh man, Wizards of the Coast created this whole new genre of vampire horror. Like, no, Gothic horror and the story of Dracula have been around for a very long time. So anyways, although if you really want to see a good game, I think that's only for our patrons. But you have to see. You're a patron, Steven. Did you ever watch Dread in the Dark and Dragons?
No.
That was we did a one-shot Halloween Castle Ravenloft adventure using the Dread system with the Jenga tower, and our buddy Vin from Australia came in. It was me, Smith, and Bob, but we gamified it, so it was not just Dread. It was Dread with like conditions and gaming effects. And then Smith brought a 3rd edition character and ended up using his 3rd edition character in the Jenga game. And so anyways, it was Dread. It was Dread, but it was also had elements of Blaze in the Dark. So it was Dread in the Dark and Dragons.
So, by the way, if you want original stuff, that's actually also one of the main reasons why, like, I kind of like Paizo and Pathfinder, because they always take risks, and they know they take risks. And in fact, we were talking about our next campaign the other night, because we're going to do Jewel the Indigo Isle, and then we're going to probably do the Danger Island.
Fist of the Ruby Phoenix.
Fist of the Ruby Phoenix. And they were like excited for both because they're like, Kung Fu Island Adventure Tournament? That sounds fantastic. You know, they love that crap. So they're very excited. And you know, that's the problem when you're being the leader. Like, you turn into McDonald's. Like, couldn't McDonald's put out a bagel and lox sandwich? Probably. Would it do as well as their Big Mac? No.
I go to Starbucks often. And I could tell you, as a frequent Starbucks customer, every 3 months, because right. One of the first things you have to do when you're in marketing or product, and I'm talking to the master here, so you know this, is you have to justify your existence and make sure that there's a reason that your job still exists. So what you do is you come up with new ideas. Right? It's the same reason why Discord gets worse with every update, right? Because it's like, hey, we built a program and it's great.
And it works.
Like, okay,
and it did everything we wanted it to do. But we need
to justify our.
We need the line
existence.
to keep moving up. Right.
That's the inshitification.
Yes, the inshitification. Right. And Discord is quickly becoming inshitified, by the way. But it's okay. We can all move back to forums, and I'll be a lot happier. But anyways, so one of the first things you do is you have to sort of define your existence, and the same thing is true with these games, like Starbucks every 3 months comes up with some disgusting new drink. They had a drink for a while. They were putting olive oil in your coffee, and it was like, what the fuck? And they had all this like marketing brand for it. And everyone was like, even the baristas were like, this is the worst shit I've ever had. Who thought this could possibly be a good idea? Nobody. And then it went away, and then something else came up, and then they do it again and again and again, because they just keep spamming bad ideas until somebody decides that works, I guess. But meanwhile, everyone just keeps getting their pumpkin spice lattes for the end of time.
Ugh, pumpkin
spice. It's just one of those things where it's like the customer, and somebody mentioned earlier, and I did want to touch on this. They mentioned like something about, no, there's still innovation. Like, consider the Souls game. That was revolutionary when it comes out. The problem with there is you're like kind of getting confused by the survival principle. Right. It's like when you look at these big hedge funds on Wall Street, and it proves that people know how to beat the market, because look at them. They're over the last 10 years, their market returns 18% annually. And it's like, yeah, because you don't see the dozens or hundreds or thousands of funds that went bankrupt because they got it wrong. Like, the Souls game worked. What about the 9 other games that came out that used some sort of new idea, new product, and it never went anywhere, and no one ever played it, and it never made another dent? And the problem is, it's like throwing darts at a dice, at a dartboard.
Whereas
throwing darts at a dice board, that's actually more accurate.
Making Madden 2020X is guaranteed that people will just buy it again.
Right.
It's safe. Save money. Whereas you don't have to gamble that you're going to be the next Demon Souls, or that you're going to be the next like genre defining thing when you making Madden 2029.
Right, but the thing is, Madden 2029 is going to outsell any brand new football game that they could possibly come up with. FIFA 2030 is going to be the best-selling soccer game because that's just what people play.
Yeah, but every so often you will get that hit, and then okay, so the big news that's going on in the video game world is Claire Obscura Expedition 33. If anyone's heard about this, it's a French adventure game. It's a AA game. It's not AAA, not single A, AA, which is it's a little less than 50 million. So somewhere between $10 to $50 million. That's AA, and people are losing their minds. Like, this is the greatest game. It has all these new ideas. It's like a very mature story. Blah blah blah. It's the new hotness. Like, everyone's talking about it on YouTube, and it's doing great. It sold over 2 million copies. So this movie, that's the thing, though. When you make a small game and it does hit, you make bank. And that's why they keep doing it. And that another example, different genre, is what's it, My Greek Wedding? Like, I think that still has the record for percentage of most money ever made of all time.
A movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's see.
Well, I don't have to tell you.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding, it cost like, whatever, like a couple of million to make, and then it made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So
I know Blair Witch also was kind of like that.
Oh yeah, well, Blair Witch, yes.
But I was going to
Here
say,
it is.
like,
The budget was $5 million, and it made $368.7 million. So
I
huge
remember
return.
being a gamer in the mid '90s, and Magic the Gathering came out, and the following year, like every single
everyone.
company had a trading card game.
Everyone.
D&D had Spellfire.
Spellfire.
White Wolf had Jihad. It had,
I like Jihad.
I like Jihad too. Sorry, Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. They renamed it. There was the Doom. There was the Doom Patrol card game. There was Star Trek: The Next Generation card game. X-Files had a card game.
There was the Dune.
There was a Dune card game. There was a million card. Pokemon came out shortly thereafter. Like, there was a million bajillion card games.
And Pokemon then became the most successful IP in history of the world of all time, ever.
But how many of those card games are still around?
But that's the thing. You got to throw them darts, because if you're not in the game, you can't win.
Matthew Blanchard, I also remember Rage, and that was a cool game too. The card stocks were very nice in that.
Remember. Do you remember the big one that came? The very first one that came after was Wyvern. Remember that? And
I do.
Well, the guy actually lived here, and he used to demo it all the time. And he actually was a tarot card. That's why it looked like tarot cards. He used to make tarot cards, and then he quickly made a game and made tarot, and it was the same printer. So that's why they look so beautiful. They were a very, very beautiful game. I still have it around in my closet somewhere.
The X-Files card game was cool. Like, before the game, it was like a game of Clue. Like, before the game, like, you had to pick an X-File that you secretly had, and your like opponent was trying to like figure out what your X-File was. You had like a checklist, and you had like cross out.
I did get a storage unit, and so I might have time to go through my collection of, because my wife's like, you're gonna get rid of some of your crap, so I might have to go through the attic and unbox all my geek stuff from the 90s, which is every game that you just listed, I have those games.
Oh yes, I probably have them in a box somewhere.
I have them in my box upstairs. I know exactly where they are.
I'm just saying, like, there were a lot of, but like, obviously Magic the Gathering redefined the gaming industry, and a bunch of people tried to copy their success, and I would say the vast majority of them failed. And pretenders have come and gone. They've come for the throne, and they failed. And they come for the throne and failed. And I mean, and since WoW came out, I would say only realistically one MMO has done close to becoming a true WoW killer, and that's as WoW itself has withered off and died. And that's Final Fantasy 14. The second time they launched it.
By the way, WoW's been coming back very quietly, by the way. They've been doing very well.
Because the first time they launched it was such a disaster, they basically canceled the game and relaunched it. But, when Disney came out with Lorcana, everyone said, this is it. It's Disney. Those Disney people are crazy. This is it. It's going to kill wizards. It's going to kill...
And that, talk about fights. There was like fights at Gen Con.
Remember at Gen Con? Yeah, people were getting in fights to get big fights in the lines because the lines were so long. Lorcana... It probably won't even be around in another year or two. It's like, and if it is, just because Disney refuses to give up on it, and they make it look embarrassing. So yeah, it's just, all these people talk about these games. It's like, no, people just keep going back to the same game with the same game, and innovation isn't as important to the consumer as you all seem to think it is.
Well, it's because it's what you want, but it's not what you buy.
Yes. Yes, it's the girl you date, not the one you marry.
No, but seriously, that's the thing. It's like, because when people say what they want and what they do is always different, and that's the secret. That's the secret of marketing, is to learn what people really want. It's not what they say they want.
Also,
but there is that 0.1% of time where everyone's surprised, including the marketers. So
yeah. Also, why does 5e need to be innovative? Look at all this shit.
Like, where'd he go? I look at Derek like, fell. Like, did you fall down?
No, I did it so that my bookshelf becomes in focus.
Oh,
But like, look at all this stuff. There's so
look at
many
all my
games.
stuff.
There's so many games that are coming out every single year.
I just got a box of something I backed so many years ago. I didn't even remember backing it. I mean, that happens all the time. Wait, it's big too.
You know, and even if you really only love D&D or Pathfinder 2, do you know how many third-party publishers are out there making cool stuff for your game? You know, again, I don't even know how. I can't even tell you. I don't know. I'd love to get I wish we could do a survey, Mark, but I can't even tell you how many people I got to stop and look at classic creatures when I mentioned that you could be a dungeon. That was like, of all the things I was saying, I would lead him in there. I was like, you could be a mimic, you could be a slime,
I did the
you could
exact
be an
same
intelligent
thing.
weapon. And then I was like, you could also be a dungeon. And
I
they'd be
know.
like, a dungeon. And I'm like, a dungeon. And they're like, wow, how does that even work? And that would literally bring them in. And then I would start describing, and this is just one anecdote, right, about how we're starting a new Pathfinder 2 campaign with Starfinder 2 elements and Battlezoo Bestiary elements. And I'm being a player, and my buddy is playing a dungeon. He is a museum. He's an extraplanar museum. And he is an Eldamon trainer with the researcher subtype.
Yikes.
So his goal is to collect Eldamon, and he is a manifestation
in a museum. It belongs in me.
Yes. And so he is a there may be multiple copies of him for all he knows, but he is a manifestation of an extra dimensional museum that is going out and trying to literally collect Eldamon and put them into this vault or this museum. And he doesn't know why. Ergo, we'll have to explore him and figure out the reasons for. But you know, that's innovative. That's weird. That's taking almost what was literally a joke concept and turning it actually into something really compelling. And that's cool. That's innovative. That's interesting. You know, and we were making characters, and our buddy Tim didn't really seem interested. He seemed kind of out of it. I don't know if he was not feeling Pathfinder 2. Like, we decided to play Pathfinder 2, we just maybe wasn't feeling it. And then when we started talking about intelligent weapons and that he could be one, and we harkened back to a joke that we made 20 years ago about one of his characters, that we joked that his character was actually an intelligent weapon the whole time. He's like, wait a second, I can actually make that character for real now? It got him involved, and suddenly he perked up and he was really engaged in the character building process. So yeah, that stuff can work. But Paizo didn't have to come out with that. Battlezoo did. Roll for Combat did. So yeah, you don't need 5e to come up with cool stuff. Other people will come up with cool stuff. Just buy it.
Smaller companies can more easily put out that weird niche product that might not sell enough to be a success for WoTC, but will sell enough to be a success for them, and might be something that feels more different or creative. That's just the thing about a big company, is that, and that's why when you were saying if Dark Sun came out, it would fail, nobody would buy it. No, plenty of people would buy it, to the point that if a small company made it, they'd be fine with it. But not enough for Wizards to make it and be okay. And that's just the thing. The bar is so high when you are the top dog and you are doing all of these the things that the Dungeons and Dragons is, that they can't take those kind of risks.
Right.
And it's very unfortunate, because you have top tier creative talent, and they need to do safe products. They can still put creative content in those safe products. If you look within those pages, you'll find it. You'll find creative descriptions. You'll find creative ideas for particular character options, right? But the big creative, what the heck is this projects, you're going to see them more easily in smaller companies, where those smaller number of sales are a success,
right,
instead of a failure.
Right, where they can do, they could do 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 units sold and be like, yeah, we're that's great. I'm happy with that, whereas, that's nothing to a company like Wizards of the Coast. That actually leads to one of the most common misrepresented lies about 4th edition D&D, which has been repudiated by everyone involved, which is to say 4th edition actually sold totally fine. It just didn't sell as well as the new corporate masters at Hasbro wanted out of one of their product lines, given that they were also looking at things like Magic the Gathering. And so while 4th edition still sold really well, it still made money, it just didn't do gangbusters like they wanted it to. And so from that perspective, it was a failure. It's the classic problem with any sort of capitalistic society, where it's like, hey, we thought our company was going to grow 20%. It only grew 18%, and so our stock price is down. Because we've somehow failed. And you're like, we didn't fail, like we grew 18%. That's insane. Yeah, but we thought you were going to go 20.
By the way, I will say something fascinating, and then we'll get to the super chat, is that I must have done the pitch a couple hundred times, so did Mark. And I would do the pitch the same for each book. And every single time we got to, you can be a mimic, you can be a slime, you can be a dungeon, they'd be like, what? It was like every person had the same reaction at the same time. It was actually kind of fascinating to see that no matter what I said, it always got the same reaction from the same people in the same order. It was actually
it was
pretty interesting.
I got that reaction like more than half the time on Dungeon, and I also got a reaction of like
intelligent weapon, like
a laughter, smile, or like to talking about Eldamon in a particular way. And if I didn't get that reaction, then I knew to skip an entire part of my spiel because I was like, oh, well, this person doesn't even like that, which a lot of people gave the same reaction to. So I'd like watch people's face, see how they reacted or what they said to those two things. And then I would talk more about those books if they were one of the majority who did. So the super chat was from Mark T, who said, Roll for Combat is innovative enough for my needs. And there's like a...
yes, you guys meet my bare minimum expectation of innovation. Good job.
Hey, man.
There's like an object that's in there that might not be showing on my computer in between innovative and enough.
I see it too. What's up, Rick? What's up? By the way, what's up, Mark? I thank you for the super chat. Mark likes to make fun of me.
Mark T?
Yeah, he likes to make fun of me because he says that my thumbnails are shitty and I don't do a good enough job of bringing people in. What's up, Rick? Though, good to see you. Actually, it's funny too. My Eldamon pitch, I took a slightly different tact. My Eldamon pitch was, I'm like, I'm playing an Eldamon trainer in my new campaign that I'm playing. I'm getting to be a player, and I'm an Eldamon trainer. And I'm like, now I don't really like Pokemon. In fact, I kind of dislike it, and I hate cutesy stuff. And people will be looking at me like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" Then I was like, because it's so fucking cool. Like the mechanics are great. It provides a ton of tactical options, a ton of strategic options. The mechanics are really compelling, and they're like, "Oh, okay." So I try to sell them on that.
That might actually be a better sales pitch when it works. And it reminds me of the best sales pitch that I think I've probably ever done at the Paizo booth when Occult Adventures came out. And there would be, for some reason, people would gravitate towards it. It was the new book. And they'd be like, is this Psionics? Is this really just Psionics? I love Psionics. And another person would come up and say, is this really Psionics? I hate Psionics. And then I would say, well, it's not Psionics. And that, but I think that maybe both of you would like it. And then I explain it in a way that like the I hate Psionics and the I love Psionics person both pick it up. And it was very weird that it happened 5 times during the convention that those pair of feuding hate and love Psionics people would show up and then both of them bought it. That it was just like the existence of the other person to serve as a foil for their own opinions, I guess, made it an interesting 3-way conversation about the product. I don't know. I've never had quite that same experience before or since.
I am a self-admitted 5e noob, right? Like I don't really know all the details of 5e. Well, I love it in that it's Dungeons and Dragons, and so I lost everything. Now, despite their love for all things old and nostalgia, has 5e done Psionics? Like officially?
I don't think so.
Like, is there a Scion class?
No,
or a Psionic system?
No.
I feel like Unearthed Arcana had
a PowerPoint, but
something in there, but I don't know if they.
So Amy Z said yes. I don't know. Did they? I actually don't know.
But I get that Unearthed Arcana is official, but it's also like not official. You know what I mean? Like it's official and it's like not official.
It's a subclass of fighter.
Fighter.
Yeah, I know they had some subclasses as well, but did they actually have like a full-on?
No, they don't have new classes.
I don't think that they did.
No. There's a couple of pseudo psionic subclasses.
Yeah,
definitely.
They
those
did
are the
now.
only ones that I saw.
They are coming up with a new magic system this year in one of their books.
And it could be psionics, even though they said it was brand new, because they have also said that things were brand new that were from older editions, or even in some cases, literally the 2014 book, that they're like, this new thing in the 2024 book, which was in the 2014 book. So I guess we won't know until we see. It might be brand new. Some of the brand new Magic systems they've created over the years in other editions have been really cool.
All right, Glicker, put a poll up. I want to know.
Whoa, no one calls me. Don't call me that. Don't call me Glicker.
All right, Glick. All right, Glickster.
No, Steven.
Steven, go ahead and put up a poll. I want to. What do people feel about Psionics? Like, do they love it? Is it okay, or do they dislike it? Because I think I dislike it. I think I dislike it.
Okay.
You dislike Psionics, Derek?
I think so. I've never really.
And are you lumping it all together because the different ways it's been done in the different editions of D&D are very different?
They're very different. But the problem I have with it is, outside of the mechanical implementation of it, is I never understood the role of it in a world that already had magic and spells. It never felt different or distinct or unique in any sort of way, and it just felt like it was all just blended together. So like the execution of it felt really bad or weird, and
well, wasn't the whole thing because then, at least for first edition, is that because then anyone can use Psionics? You could be a fighter that uses it, and
you roll randomly.
Well, yeah,
talent,
right? But it was basically allowed you to cast magic in a way without having to be a magic user. I think that was the big appeal of it originally.
Yeah, it was very strange, and
unusual.
It was very strange and unusual. And in fact, one of the very first, this is one of the original KOLC memes. This is classic. This is the very beginning of our channel. It was our very first banning. We had a guy join who was really, really into Psionics. And he's always talked about how Wizards of the Coast screwed him out, and how Bruce Cordell was the worst human being imagined, how they stole all of his ideas. And only it's because he was a real psionic, because he went to a secret government thing and they awakened his inner eye. And he was being legit. I don't know if he was a troll, but he was pretty emphatic about it.
That's all true, by the way, Derek. Everything you just stated is true.
And he was screaming at everybody. And I was and then
that was me, by the way. I'm the guy who did that.
And I got a message from one of my mods. He's like, Derek, you need to stop this. I'm I'm already on it. And I was like, okay, this is good enough. And by the way, this is the great. Yeah. So Pumpkin's in chat. Unfortunately, Pumpkin says this guy apparently had made a game, had made a Psionic book, and Pumpkin had actually owned it. He bought it before he even knew who this crazy person was. And he's like, I have that band guy's Pathfinder's 2E Psionics book. It's awful. Because he's like, I made a Psionics book for Pathfinder 2nd edition. It's the best Psionic book of all time. Only I could write about Psionics because only I have experience with controlling things with my mind. It was one of my favorite epic moments here.
I think they might have made some sock puppet accounts on Paizo.com to talk about their Psionic book as well.
Oh, so you know who I'm talking about? Okay.
Wow.
Well, I thought I did. I was like, it's strange you didn't talk about them having written a book, though, because they're always talking about their book. But then when Unfortunate Pumpkin mentioned that they had written a book, then yes, I do know.
Yeah. So he's one of the handful of people who are banned from the Night's Last Call. Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't understand.
It looks like most people think it's okay.
More
people love it than dislike it by a significant margin, but that's only 30 votes.
I will say this. I like it in the context of Dark Sun, because there's no divine magic in Dark Sun. Magic itself is kind of outlawed / evil. And even then, there's this option between defiling and preserving. It feels like it has more of a role. It feels like it has more of a niche. But when you're playing with magic, it just feels like it's why do we need another system?
There's a super chat from Rick Sherman that says Psionics seems just like Magic and fantasy games, so it's redundant and sci-fi the players that have it take on the role of mages.
Right, and that makes sense. Rick Sherman's a big Traveler player.
So here's my take. I just like having as many magic systems as possible, and so I like Psionics because it is a magic system that is another magic system. But if you gave me instead of Psionics, an equally detailed magic system that was themed on tapping into ley lines, or a true naming system that was better than the 3rd edition one, or some of the cool ones in 3rd edition, like binding or whatever,
oh my God.
Like all of those. So even though I'm pro Psionic, like the game that I got Linda into playing tabletop RPGs on had Psionics in it. But like, if it like, you know, when they talk about like replacement with the equivalent player in sports, or replacement with equivalent replacement with equivalent magic system, I don't know if the equivalent magic system would be worse, if you see what I mean. Like, I like it because it's there and it's a magic system.
All right, Mark. This is just me trying to really explore the space and understand you better. What you just said. What are your thoughts on Magic of Incarnum?
So, I liked it.
Okay.
But it had some issues in the implementation.
Yes.
But I enjoyed that they made a new magic system. And so when I created the BBEG for that game that Linda started playing on, who used like every kind of magic system there was, he did use Incarnum.
Okay.
He was a psionic character who had epic binder, because you actually didn't have to have the binder class to take the epic vestiges. So he had an epic vestige. He used the Incarnum feat that, like, what did it do? It did something like giving you back psionic focus or power points by using Incarnum. And he used that to like restore his power points or psionic focus using the Incarnum. Incarnum also had a very important role in his plans, because of the fact that the gods in that setting had made a deal that they could not influence the energy of unborn souls, because deities kept trying to do that and it kept causing problems. And Incarnum is that.
Right.
So the BBEG had like shrouded himself with Incarnum so that gods couldn't come after him, because he was doing a plan that the gods were against. So
there you go.
It was actually very important to the plot, but nobody took any of the classes that used it because they were not very strong. Later, they did have to gain a little bit of Incarnum so that they could do the same thing the BBG did to chase him. So that is my long answer to that.
All right. Well, I say this. I thought Incarnum was interesting. By the way, for people who don't know what we're talking about a very obscure book that came out in very late 3.5 edition. And Incarnum, there was like maybe 2 classes in the book, but
there was the Totemist, there was the
Incarnate, and there might have been a third one, but I think
was there a third one? I only remember the Totemist and the Incarnate.
I only remember the Totemist and the Incarnate. But basically, what they did is they basically created sort of like pseudo temporary magic items that you kind of like equipped into your various slots, like your wrist slots, your boot slots, your arm slots, and so it actually felt like a very different system than, you know, your traditional. Oh, Soulborn. There we go. So there was a third one. It felt like a very different system of magic. Compared to like,
my mind was telling me that there should have been a third one, but I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, but so that to me was very, very interesting, because it was like you had this ability to like sort of customize your abilities, but they didn't feel like spells. I mean, because they worked basically like temporary magic items that you could put over your character, and it was really cool. And like you were use a very different methodology of sort of assigning your resources and the type of effects that they would give you. So it felt like it was really cool. I don't know how like mechanically balanced it was, but at least it was interesting in principle. Whereas like using power points to cast psionic spells instead of using slots, I mean, a psionic fireball basically just felt like fireball to me. You know, like the fact that I was using 8 power points instead of a third level slot, like it just all felt the same to me.
So we're talking 3.5 because that's where Incarnum was at. And Binding, which was a cool magic system in 3.5. They did have things like the psionic focus that you could use and combine it with different meta psionic feats, so that there were different ways to spend the same power points that would get you different effects that were generally kind of interesting. And the action economy around psionic focus let you do some kind of creative stuff that were more than just the points. Whereas I will agree with you that the points systems generally encourage you to like Nova everything into your biggest slot, or if the low ones are strong and cost little enough, to cast like an incredibly high amount of the really low ones while screwing you over in like the middle slots.
Right. Yeah, Incarnate, Soulborn, and Totemist. Yeah, sweet.
All right, now you guys are really getting way too deep in the.
Yeah, we got into the weeds here with your question
I was
about Sonic.
I know. I was going to start talking about soul melds and Essentia, but it was a cool system. My point is, would 5th edition D&D do this?
Well, Magic of Incarnum was a very poorly selling book.
Right. That's my point. That was them innovating.
5th edition D&D would not do that because you could be the what was the book that had the Shadowcaster, the True Namer, and the Binder in it? It was like Tome of Magic or something like that. It was but it was maybe not exactly that. It had a very, very generic sounding name. With the
I think it was called Tome of Magic.
Okay, so that book, Binder was very acclaimed. True Namer was just the mechanics on it were very bad.
Yeah,
and then Shadowcasting was kind of in between them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know the sales numbers on it. Maybe it sold well, but it was like 1 hit out of 3. Magic of Incarnum was 0 hits out of 1 in terms of how well it did and how well it was adopted. Why would they take that gamble? That they're going to get another Binder instead of a True Namer or an Incarnum, especially since making a brand new Magic system is one of the hardest and most design intensive things to do, and it'll sell worse, and it's a gamble. Like,
right. Yeah.
People would need to buy it first. And it's better for the entire ecosystem for third parties who can afford to sell less to take that gamble and make those creative, amazing Magic systems that you want to play. And not for the big company to do it. It's why it was so wild when their lawyers decided to go after the third-party companies, because those third-party companies are so useful to them to be able to do the things that they can't do. They're not competing for doing the same things Wizards would have done, which is the nostalgia bait that goes back to things that Wizards own so deeply that no third-party company, nobody can do Strahd, except for maybe during that time when they accidentally put Strahd's name in the Creative Commons.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, but at the same time, does being third-party, it almost feels like it's like, well, you guys can afford to take the loss on that. You know what I mean? Like, you can afford to take...
It's not a loss for them, though.
But
right?
I guess
they can take the gamble, or like
if you're a small publisher, I mean, unless you're just publishing because you're like, I want to have fun. But like, if you're actually trying to run a successful business, it's got to be tough for you to be like, hey, let's make a product that may not sell well at all, and that's it. That's the end of my business if it doesn't do well. But
here's the thing. Those kind of products usually could find enough of people that they would sell well enough if you're small and you don't have a high budget, right? They're not as risky. Like for Wizards, right? It's a risk between, I don't know what their regular sales are supposed to be like for their books, so I can't speak to this. I only know Steven's book scan numbers, which are not where all of their stuff is coming from. But let's say that their regular amount that they want to sell of their book is 100,000 for a particular book. And if they're taking a gamble of 1D 100,000, where 1D 100 times 1,000, where it could be 1,000 or 2,000 or 100,000 that are sold, that is ruinous for them if they sell 1,000 and they printed 100,000. Meanwhile, for the small company, if they don't have Wizards brand name, maybe they're doing 1D 10,000. But that actually, even if they rolled a 1 and sold 1,000, that might be enough for their budget. So it's not as much of a gamble as it seems potentially.
Yeah, Ken said, serious question, when was the last time D&D had a new idea? And I mean, I said answer sort of flippantly, but I said 4th edition. And you can see how well the legacy of that has gone over.
Like 4th edition was very innovative at its time.
Yeah.
There were some things about it I really liked. There were some things I didn't like. And it could not say it wasn't innovative.
No, it was and it literally caused a seismic shift in the art. Like literally people went on crusades to talk about how much they hated it and how much this wasn't my D&D and how much, I mean, innovation has a price too, suddenly it's not my D&D. And people don't want, they don't want your peanut butter and their chocolate. So
everyone likes peanut butter and chocolate.
They should, but not everybody does.
Well, then who? Okay. Let's go back in time.
Okay.
Where everything kind of was original. I know you say nothing's original, but there was. There was a first Ravenloft. There was a first Baldur's Gate 1.
Yeah,
like,
but
you know, there's
like
first...
Derek said, Ravenloft was basically
Yeah, but that's okay, because it's still... Hey, man.
And Dracula was similar to
Hey,
Carmilla.
oh, dude, I'm going to cut you off, because everything is derivative of everything, okay? So let's not go down that rabbit hole, okay? Everything can be copied from something if you go back far enough. So... it still was original-ish. How about that?
Original-ish. I'll give you original-ish.
Okay, original-ish. And they were trying out new stuff. Like, there was a lot of new stuff. Open up some Dragon magazines from back then, and there was crazy shit in those magazines. And because they were geeks talking to other geeks, just doing fun stuff that they like doing. And yeah, they were trying to make money, but they were bad at business as well. And they definitely were not doing the things to do to stay in business.
TSR in the 90s was very innovative. You know, they had all sorts of crazy new books and all sorts of hundreds of news campaigns.
And you can see all those horrible books all those innovative books that nobody bought and knows anything about on Knights of Last Call, because Derek covers every single one of them.
That's right. And you know, and we get dozens of views.
I know you do. Your videos do as well as those books did back in the day. You are continuing the tradition, the long-term tradition.
I could do the 700,000th video covering top 3 BG3 classes for your 5e game and get more views than I would covering, say, the Birthright campaign setting. But point is, TSR was very innovative in the 90s in terms of some of their new ideas, certainly in terms of their campaign settings. And the net result of it was financial insolvency, looming bankruptcy, unpaid employees, and ultimately getting bought out because they were going to be bankrupt and shuttered.
Right.
So that's the cost of innovation.
So my point is, who is the audience for D&D? Is the audience, or is D&D trying to have its... My postulation is that D&D is trying to have its cake and eating it too. And I have to say they're actually doing a pretty good job. Is that they can go back to the well 1,000 times, because you know why? They're the only ones who can. They're the only ones who can do Ravenloft or talk about beholders or talk about displacer beasts, you know, anything they own the IP for. Like, they're the only ones who can do that. Therefore, good, let them keep going back to the same well. Let them keep rehashing the same things over and over again, because it allows me and the third-party publishers to explore the crazy stuff. Because I really don't want Pathfinder. I really don't want WoTC to come out with the Dungeon Ancestry, because everyone's going to think we copied them, even though ours came out 3 years ago. They're going to be like, oh, that's like WoTC. It's like, no, we did that. You know, no matter how much we say we did it, I guarantee people are going to think that we copied them. So in a weird way, good. Let them not be innovative. Let them just continue down the same path of rehashing the hits forever and ever and ever.
And you were asking, Stephen, you asked the question, who are the audience?
Right, but who is the audience? So who is the
audience? Well, the answer is,
and
this is why they can rehash it. The audience is a combination of people, but if it's new players who have never seen it before because they're new, that's new to them. And it's something that's battle tested from coming out before. And if it's old players who get nostalgia from that old thing, they're like, oh man, this is just like that thing that I liked before. Then that's good for them too. So this is why these classic rehashes do well, is because it actually has an appeal like across audiences.
Correct. And I literally said something similar to that in my Discord earlier today to my patrons, is I basically said, you need to pick stuff that resonates strongly enough with the nostalgic crowd of the old people to be like, yeah, this is what D&D means to me, but also is iconic enough that people who are only tacitly aware of D&D or tangent, you know, are going to be like, oh, I recognize that. Like, you know, that's something that I've seen in media or in games or talked about, right? Like, I think there's a lot of people out there who would be quick to notice, you know, to recognize a beholder or maybe a displacer beast. How many people are going to recognize like a chul, you know, or like, you know, some other sort of, you know, crazy, weird creature that we know from D&D, but isn't necessarily associated with the brand IP?
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Now, Anthony Peterson asked in his super chat, like to hear everyone's thoughts as to why Paizo is, parentheses, relatively innovative, stay creative, crank out lots of books, and stay in business. The answer there is because of the fact it's smaller than D&D, right? But even then, when I was working at Paizo, there were a lot of people who approached me with very creative ideas that I thought seriously would be a great book. And they're like, why doesn't Paizo put out a book about this? And first of all, that you can't really take solicitations from a random person because then they could be like, well, you then stole my idea. But let's assume that wasn't a problem. I answered that. I said, that is a great idea for a book. Paizo can't really do this book because it's for a niche of a certain audience. But I think you should do it as a third-party book. You should publish it. And when Infinite came out, which was like around when I was leaving Paizo, so that now I would get fewer people asking me this, but I would still say to people, I think you should do it on Infinite or publish it yourself third party, because there are still topics that are too like weirdly niche innovative for Paizo to do. But since they are smaller than D&D, they don't need to sell as much as D&D. They can be a little more niche than D&D. And they also don't have a history as ancient to rehash from. So like if D&D didn't have as many years, they wouldn't be able to rehash as high a percentage of the time without being like, oh, well, every year we'll do a Ravenloft book because I guess that's what we're doing, right? So when you combine all of that, you get a company that's just a little more agile and a little more able to innovate than D&D is, I think.
Anthony's so right. He just chatted. He said, as much as people say they are sick of trad fantasy races like elves and dwarfs, full stop, right? We'll stop you right there. Number one, I'm on the record numerous times as being never sick of elves and dwarves. In fact, people always go, Derek only loves elves and dwarves. But anyways, as much as people say they are sick of trad fantasy races like elves and dwarves, when you put out an RPG source book or fantasy novel with new races, people are like, what's this? And it makes me think about, we were doing a review of Draw Steel, and we had a guest on, or maybe two guests on, and we were looking at like the skeleton in the back of the book, and everybody was like offended by the skeleton because it wasn't just like a skeleton with like rusted chainmail armor and a rusty sword and like a beat up shield. It was like, they're like, where is the default skeleton, that every fantasy RPG should have?
It was like a powerful skeletal warrior with like the lowest skeleton.
Yeah, it like threw bones like from its rib cage. It was like a ranged attacker. It like there was no like generic skeletal warrior, and like everyone was like so offended by this, like there wasn't just this generic skeletal warrior, and it's like, I mean,
even like basic Stalfos in Zelda throw bones at you. I think it's not that weird for them, but was that the only thing they did, and they didn't have any melee attack?
Yeah, I don't think they really had a melee attack. But the point is like, they're like, this does not meet my expectations of traditional fantasy concepts, and it's like, yeah, it's weird because if you make something too, I think what you end up getting into sometimes is this sort of uncanny valley where you're like, this looks like D&D, or sorry, it feels like D&D, but it doesn't look like D&D, and it's like, I'm uncomfortable with it. Like if it's something completely different, I think people, are okay with it. But if it's like D&D adjacent, but it's like weird and different, then people are like, no, like, I'm in a really weird place, and I just don't like it.
Like, imagine if you had a setting where you had orcs, and they looked like orcs, but they were shrimpy and weak, and they had like no muscles,
right?
But otherwise they had the tusks still. They were known to be like powerful wizards, whereas like elves were like these beefy, bulky, like almost 8 feet tall, with just like ripped with muscles across all genders, and that they just couldn't even cast magic in that setting. Like that could leave some people to have like this weird feeling compared to if you just had a pointy-eared ancestry that was not called elf, that was that muscular one that I just said.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Amy as well. People want familiarity first, creativity comes second. A different take on an elf, hence 5e with its dozen elf subraces. not completely new races, right? You're like, it's much easier for me to sell you on a book of elven sub races than it is necessarily on a book of here's brand new races. But at the same time, right? That's what you guys sell in the form of, like classic creatures. And that's because that's a smaller audience that is more interested in these really unique, interesting ideas. But most people just want to go to the same well over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, also, when you come out with a system like D&D, you have to cover the basics first. And in fact, I remember I was at PaizoCon, Mark, when they announced the book with the shifter class. And I think
Shifter
Ultimate Wilderness.
Yeah, and I think even the audience was sort of like, eh. Like it's like I think that was literally the time where we're like, I think we have enough 5e book Pathfinder books, like Pathfinder 1. I'm like, I think it's all been done. Like it felt very like we hit it. We hit the wall, we hit the limit. I wasn't excited. Like it just, I don't know how well that sell. I don't think it did that great. And it was just like, yeah. And then when Pathfinder 2 was announced, I was like, thank God. Because I felt like they just ran out of things.
You're like, thank God. Now we can get all of these classes again.
Exactly. But you know what? That's why there's reboots. That's why everything gets rebooted, baby.
But here's how crazy. Here's how crazy people are. Here is how crazy people are. PF2 gets released. PF1 had, I don't know, what was it, Mark? Like 50 classes? There's some.
No, it was over 100.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Official? No, it was like 50.
No,
unless you're counting
more.
prestige class as a class.
No, I'm not counting prestige
Not be
class.
counting.
Let's look it up. 123 main and prestige.
Oh, prestige. Yeah, so prestige.
Yeah, you can't count prestige classes as classes.
Yeah, if that's the case, third edition had 27,000 classes. Anyways, so core classes. It was like less than 50. It was like maybe upper 40. Anyways, Pathfinder 2 comes out, whole new game system.
It's 44 if you count the Unchained ones as being a different class than the original.
And I think you should, because they are quite different.
I think you should too. That's why I said 44 and then gave that caveat instead of giving the other number.
But anyways, Pathfinder 2 comes out, whole new game system. First 12 classes in the core book, obviously are all reprints, plus Alchemist, which was kind of like a Pathfinder staple. And then, classes that were not, that were in Pathfinder 1 have been released since then. And yet still, people are like, oh, where's my Inquisitor? Like people are still just like, hey, there was a class of PF1. You are contractually obligated to make that class of PF2. I want to see the same exact classes that you did for PF1 over and over again. And if you do a PF3, I want to see those same classes over and over and over again. It's so wild to me. It's like, they're like, hey, here's this new class. And they're like, yeah, but where's the Inquisitor though? It's like, damn you people. Like, just embrace something new for God's sake. What would you do if they...
Derek, you know what? It's something they loved. Even though I also like making new things, and I'm not always going to listen to them when they say that they want the Inquisitor. I'm not going to say damn you people to them or anything like that. It's something they love, and it's okay that they loved it. But that doesn't mean I'll make all of my decisions based on that.
I never thought.
Where's my samurai? I'm still waiting for the samurai.
I never thought in a million years I would quote Kylo Ren from The Last Jedi, but here I am. Okay. Let the past die.
Yeah.
Oh, kill it. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to. Okay. Just let it die. Kill it if you have to. That's where we are in this conversation. That I'm quoting the worst Star Wars. No, sorry, I'm quoting the worst film of all time. Actually, that's not true.
Is that the worst film of all time? Their worst film?
No, it's the worst Star Wars film. But that's only because I'm not counting.
What, Chapter 9?
No, Chapter 8. But that's only because I'm not counting Chapter 9 because that wasn't even a movie.
No, Chapter 8 is fine. Chapter 9 is like beyond atrocious. That is like. I mean. That's a waste of everyone's
I never thought I would see a
existence.
worse Star Wars movie than Episode 8, and then I saw Episode 9.
Oh, Episode 9 was just like ridiculous. It was so bad. It was laughable.
I was cracking. The scene where they like stand on some random promontory and pull up a dagger, and
I know, and it just happened to line. I'm like, really?
I was like, what?
Oh, and then they're like, okay, let's get together half the universe battle fleet in like 5 minutes.
By the way, that all teleport to or hyper jump to the Exegol, which is this mysterious planet that they've spent the entire movie searching for various MacGuffins that lead to other MacGuffins that lead to MacGuffins, and only now with this Sith holocron crystal embedded in their matrix can they hyper jump to it. And then suddenly 25,000 ships are there, including randomly Lando Calrissian. It was the worst movie I've ever seen.
I know.
It's 8 and 9 had a lot of stuff like that. 8, the thing that really bothered me the most was they're in this supposedly high-speed chase going as fast as the ships could possibly go in one direction. And then they're like, we'll just leave on our shuttle and we'll go over here and then we're going to come back.
My God, I've never heard that voice from Mark. I like that voice.
The Imperials could have also done that.
Or Palpatine's back. It's like, how? Why?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, because of Fortnite. Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, that was. Although I've heard good things about Andor, I don't have Disney Plus, and
Andor,
and I don't watch TV.
Masterpiece upon masterpiece upon masterpiece.
But I did enjoy Rogue One.
Star Wars.
I did enjoy Rogue One. In fact, I would say of all the movies that have come out since the original trilogy, I kind of liked. I mean, I kind of liked Episode 3. It was a little overdone in some parts, but I kind of liked Episode 3.
Well, this is the thing. Episode 1 sucked. Episode 2 and 3, there's some really good parts in those.
Yeah, like, Episode 1 was a little
wasn't that good.
It
wasn't that good, but I like part. As I said,
3 and Rogue One are the ones I like.
No, 3 has some real those fight scenes in the end.
Yeah, the thing is, and I've
it
said
was
that,
very hard to make that.
7 was okay, but it was so derivative.
7
it was
was
basically
so
just like we're
derivative.
just gonna redo.
Right. 7 would have been great if I had never seen 4 before.
Oh, 7 was so like
fair.
when they showed Star Killer Base, I was like, I'm like, really. It took them 23 years to build the Death Star, and now you just have Star Killer Base, which is like even bigger. They're like, come on.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But the thing about me and Star Wars is, this is the crazy thing. I hate lightsabers, and because like, and not only just hate lightsabers, but like for me, I've said this before. They're the quintessential moment in Star Wars is Episode 6 when Luke is fighting Darth Vader in the Emperor's throne room on the top of the Death Star, and he's not a Jedi, and he right, because he says in order to become a Jedi you have to face your father again, and only a Jedi can beat the Emperor. And it's not about, I mean, Luke went there to it's basically a suicide run. The fact that he gets out is like, incidental. It's only after he throws his lightsaber away, and up until that whole entire point, the Emperor's calling him like my pupil, my student. Luke is about to strike down his father, stops, sheaths the lightsaber, throws it away, says, "No, you're wrong, Your Highness. You failed. I am a Jedi like my father." And then Emperor Palpatine says, "So be it, Jedi." And then he goes, "I'm going to kill you now," because he understands that he's lost, right? Like the moral battle for the soul of this young boy is lost. He lost. And so the way that he became a Jedi was throwing his lightsaber away. And that to me is like always been the thing that resonated with me the most about that entire series, is that showing that the thing that makes Jedi cool is when they throw away their lightsaber, not when they use it. But anyways, that's my take on it. That's why Episode 6 is my favorite film.
Ever?
I don't care if it has Ewoks. Favorite sci-fi film.
Yes. I mean, well, the battle at the end with the 3 simultaneous battles going on, space, troops, and then one-on-one is still considered one of the greatest cinematic masterpieces, because it's so hard to do that. And then, by the way, they tried to top that
with 4 battles in Episode 1.
And it failed. It failed horribly. They tried with 4. I was like, "Oh, you thought 3 was good? We'll do 4." It's like, nope, did not work.
That is so boring. Anyways, that I get it. People don't like the Ewoks. It's fine, but like,
Ewoks were fine. I don't mind them.
And then Freelancer's like, and then Luke uses space lightning to defeat the evil. No, wait.
No. Well, no, Andor. Well, Andor is. Yeah, I can't even get into Andor. How good it is! It's beyond a masterpiece.
But it is something that it would maybe someday be something I would watch, because it's well regarded, and most importantly, if I understand it, it's finished.
Yeah, it's done. It actually ends going
with him
into
leaving
Rogue One. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, someone said my new trilogy is
Season 1, Season 2.
Andor, Rogue One,
And then A New Hope.
and then A New Hope. That's the new trilogy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, that's not a bad trilogy. That actually would be a trilogy.
That would be a great progression of, starting with these really small characters, building up to this moment of learning about this ultimate Death Star. I mean, can you imagine like the just like that guy coming into work? Like I've always seen like, there was like a hotel or a apartment building being built near me a couple years ago, and it was like literally near completion, and then it burned down. And it's like, and then they've just reopened it recently, and they had to rebuild it. Can you imagine like how like demoralizing that must be? It took you like 25 years to like build the Death Star in secret. You finally get it operational. You blow up one planet.
They actually blew up a couple, but yeah.
And then they shoot a proton torpedo down a thermal exhaust port and blow up the whole damn thing. And you're like, like it's like that guy coming into work when you're like, Well,
wait,
like
and then they blow up and Death Star 2 was way more advanced, way bigger. I actually just saw a video on this last night about the secrets of the Death Star. And they were like, it took like 24 hours for the Death Star to fire, and the first one, and like all that. It was made by the Geonosians, and they killed. It was in that it wasn't actually fully active. It was still like in the shakedown mode in Star Wars. So only 1.5 billion people were on it, as opposed to the full complement of 2 million. And then, in Jedi, that thing could restart every 3 minutes. It actually could be it could be fired. So
that being said, there are a few sounds that are more like it's like a geek mating call. Like where you go. That's that sound that the Death Star when they're pulling the little handle when it's about to fire. Yeah. I think everybody knows that one. There's a lot of things in Star Wars like we bypass. Like in episode 2 or no, episode 6, Admiral Akbar's like, concentrate on fire on that super star destroyer. It's like the Executor. It's like the big black ship that Vader's death thing, and they attack it. And it like crashes into the surface of the Death Star and goes up in a fireball. And everyone's like, and it's like, I think that had a crew complement of like 195,000 people.
No, everything in Star Wars, the crew complements on everything was like absolutely mind-boggling.
You guys are just wiping out entire like villages and cities worth of populations with each of these like attacks. It's pretty crazy. Yeah,
like billions and trillions are dying.
It's just incredible numbers of deaths, thus prompting the ultimate Star Wars debate, which is about from Clerks, right? Which is about how many rebels, how many innocent contractors died.
It wasn't. It was actually, no, it was the Geonovans who were...
Maybe the first one, but the first one was operational, so everybody on there was definitely Imperial.
No, they were all Imperial, and that was... but it was still in the shakedown phase, so it was approximately, actually, it was 1.5 million.
Yeah, but to get that second Death Star built as quickly as possible, they had to have hired some independent contractors.
No, they actually enslaved an entire. No, they actually. I do know the history.
That makes it better.
They actually enslaved entire planets.
They only killed innocent slaves, so it's not as bad.
Well, they weren't contractors. I'll tell you that much. They weren't.
That makes it much better. You're right.
No, it doesn't make it better, but those were not. Yeah,
I'm just saying it was. There was never a moment when the rebels were like, "Hey, what about all the innocent people on this Death Star?"
Well, I love that part. That is funny. But the thing is, there's so much supporting material.
That's like one of the themes of Andor is that the rebels are actually blowing people up. They're fighting the Empire, but they're not like
nice.
Oh,
they're not nice people because they can't be nice people.
Right, they're terrorists. They're terrorists, and they're real terrorists, and that's a big part of it.
That's that whole character, that Forrest Whitaker character, right? Like the Saul Guerrero.
Well, there's a big that's the thing, is that the decisions they make in these are very. It's extremely good. It's brutal, because it's not like good is good and evil is evil. It's like, no, everyone has a job, and this is how they do the job. Like they show the Empire at work, which to me is insanely fascinating, because they're like, how do you rule an empire? Well, they show you how they rule an empire, and they like have little quibbles over like, well, I'm running this sector, but then this other woman's like trying to take over the sector from someone else, because and there's all this infighting, and I'm like, that shit is great, I'm like, because that's just the stuff you see, but you see it at the higher level of like how an empire is run, and it's just that's basically it. Like they have jobs to do, and to get these jobs done, they got to make some nasty decisions, and they have to.
But I also think you just kind of pointed to like the kind of dichotomy that exists is that you have this like one story, which is these kind of like, evil empire, but also like a lot of the people like we saw, like, they're not evil. They're just soldiers, like
that. But that's what this is about. It's about those people.
Right. And then you have the rebels, but then on the other side, the other dichotomy is you have good Jedi and evil Sith, where it is very black and white.
Well, that's what makes this so good is that like, there's a lot of gray, and like, especially in the first series is that I won't give anything away, but a lot of people are just trying to literally get through the day and do their job, and they're just trying to keep their head down and not have the Empire mess them up, and now the rebels mess them up. They're like, dude, it's like being a villager in the middle of World War II. It's like, I'm just trying to live my life, and you guys are fighting around me. Like, I don't want anything to do with this.
And just like the D&D creative team, they're just like, look, all these things are going to.
Oh, he pulled it all together.
I go, look, I'm just trying to keep my, because you mentioned before, like the you're like all the D&D people leave, and now it's all the people that are left for Paizo, and they're like, look, I'm making some seriously good money now. Whatever they tell me to do, I'm just going to do it. Oh, I've got this really cool idea. We don't think that's going to work for our core audience. You know what? Forget it. What do you want? You want another wizard subclass? Got it. Check. It's out. All right, cool. I'll print it and ship it. I got it.
I hate to break it to you, but that's 100% accurate. You pretty much just summed it up.
Yeah, they're like my bank account is in the black, and I got some sick bennies. I'm good.
Great health insurance.
Great health insurance. I'm happy. I'm real good here.
Like, oh, you need our 50th wizard subclass coming right up, sir.
Right, coming right up. I'll do it. How many? Hey, what if we did Strahd, and then we did son of Strahd, right?
And daughter of Strahd.
Daughter
and then
of Strahd.
Wait,
I thought it was heir of Strahd, right? That was the book.
Yes, that's the book. It's heir of Strahd.
It's heir of Strahd. You're like, oh, it's Strahd's son. No, Yeah, just let's keep going. Let's milk this all we got, because I could come up with something new and innovative, but that probably maybe not sell. But if we do something, rehash something that's been done to death, okay, people will buy it, and they will.
They'll buy it.
They will. I realized that 2 weeks ago when I was watching, sitting in the movie theater, having paid money to see Thunderbirds, aka the New Avengers, which is so stupid.
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbolts. Which is so stupid because they're like, that's actually not the title of the movie. The title of the movie is actually like the New Avengers or something like that. They were just saying, oh, it's like a fake out. Anyways, and I'm sitting there watching this movie and I go, I am literally watching the second or third worse iterations of already existing characters that these are like the lesser versions of. And I'm watching a movie with all these people that I just do not care about at all. It's like, you're not even Captain America. You're like you're like the crappy version of Captain America. Like, why am I watching you? You're not even Black Widow, who is already not that cool. You're like the lesser version of that. And somehow I'm watching you. And it's like, but you got my money. So you don't give a shit. So who's to blame? Me. I'm the one at fault.
You're the one.
Right?
You're the problem.
Don't blame Disney for the failure of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You could put all of it. Blame it solely on me.
Oh, it's all Derek Melinda. Now
I will take all the blame because it's my fault. Because if I didn't buy that one ticket, it would be just enough to like tip the needle, and they'd be like, "Oh, this franchise is failing."
We have to actually come up with something. By the way, I saw it too. I kind of liked it.
But like
the actors are really good.
This
I
is
actually
like
got it. Actually, this is a good example of the actors were better than the material, in my opinion. I thought
the actors were better than the writing.
Really good. They're really very that day. I would go. That's one of the rare times I go to see a movie because I like the cast and they delivered big time.
But
they're really good.
At the end of the day, though, it's a storytelling medium.
I actually liked it. I liked the losers. They're like put together the worst of the worst, and they actually were like. It's kind of more fun than the other way. I mean, but that's where the story goes. It's like, how many times can you put together the best of the best? It's like, well, you got to go now. Go the other way.
Make a new movie.
They tried and it failed. Remember?
I know.
That's what happened. They tried and they failed.
When you try and you fail, also that becomes an albatross around the neck of any future attempts. Like,
well, Hollywood especially.
Look, I don't have my ear in the offices of Wizards, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone at some point is like, let's do this very new thing. And someone's like, well, remember Radiant Citadel, right? Like they probably would say something like that.
Right.
And talk about whatever the sales of it were, which was presumably less based on
right.
what we know.
Squad is
and
DC,
then it'd be like, that's just what's going to happen. And it's hard to convince sometimes people who aren't into it, like, that could have been a fluke, right? That my thing isn't going to do that. And be like, can we take the risk?
So, poor kid, I'm actually going to disagree with you very much because the problem with the business model, one of the reasons TSR went out of business is because their primary audience was the DM. The DM is only 10%, 15%, 20% of your audience at most. So trying to sell to DMs, like selling adventure modules, selling campaign settings, is really rough because only you're taking your base and you're throwing away 80% of it in the form of the players.
It's even worse if it's something that is being sold to only some GMs.
Right. Like
an adventure module, only the GM who needs that adventure, as opposed to like a big monster book that any GM could use.
Right. But that's one of the reasons why splat books, books of new classes, books of new ancestries, always have done very well. Books of new feats, depending on what your prestige classes, things that are player focus facing, because players buy them aspirationally. They buy them to dream. They buy them to bring into their game. They buy them to share with their DMs. And those are the books that sell really, really well because now you're selling to everyone, the GMs and the players. And so the audience in that regard is actually the preferred audience. Is if you could sell to players, then you're going to capture a lot more money.
Hey, you're good at business.
Think of who can use it and when they can use it, right? Like a new campaign setting, only the GM is really making that call, and rarely they don't need a new campaign setting. It could be huge for you if it becomes popular and you've got your own IP in it now. But it's also the one that's most likely to do the worst. Whereas player options, they're going to need those like immediately. If it's a spell, the wizard could learn it tomorrow.
Well, I think we beat this topic to death and then some. I think Derek's ready to go another 3 hours.
We did go on topic, though, for a pretty decent amount of it.
Yeah, well,
I got a good night's sleep last night.
I actually got a very good night's sleep. I'm still tired, though. I'm still tired. And I got to still do the move tomorrow.
I am still tired from the con, too, but I'm feeling a lot better. Monday, I was still like completely exhausted. But yesterday,
I had to drive.
I'm still feeling a lot better.
I had to drive, and then I played tennis, and then I played my game. So I was
moly,
I know,
Steven.
I know.
Holy moly.
I was very tired, and then
I just slept for almost 12 hours on Sunday night, and after that, I was still tired on Monday. But on Tuesday, I was feeling better.
Well, and then, Battle Dragons is for Pathfinder is pretty much done, more or less.
It's really funny. It's lapped around Elemental Storm because of the art pieces. Because Elemental Storm was
there's another reason. Derek,
was ready for Elemental.
We're waiting for something for Derek to help me out with. Derek, where's my stuff, Derek?
But we don't need that to
yes, we do.
Elemental Storm.
Yes, we do. I can't do it. Because they didn't finish. It's not even done. I need it.
I'm working on it.
We can't. Look, I'll go in and finish it.
It's going to take. It takes so long to do.
It does take a long time. I know, but we cannot publish a book that might be wrong.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I'm not going to have you. I'm just going to take you a week. We're not. We're using it as a double checker.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
It's not only, but where you didn't do. But no, Alf and I are gonna go in and do it.
That'll work.
Now, poor kid, I do agree with you. I don't know that everyone wanted to be a DM back in the day, but nowadays it is very.
No one wants to be a DM now.
No one wants to be a DM. You are correct about that. I think it was Mark. Maybe Mark might have shared that stat with us that one time.
It was crazy town. It was like something 50-1, or
it was like an insane ratio.
The number of people who tagged themselves, it was like in one of the very popular D&D Reddit or social media group that they tag themselves as being a DM ever versus a player. You can tag with both if you do them both.
Well, here's the thing.
And it was wild.
I'm a forever DM. and even I'm like kind of done DMing, and I'm like, even I'm just like, you know what? I think I kind of want to become a player.
Interesting.
I know. For the first time ever, I'm like, you know what? Kind of like playing. I always hated it. Maybe because you get old, I'm just like,
Yeah, I mean, well, DMing is more work
it's so much
than
work.
playing, but not if you. That's one of the reasons why what has sort of dictated my shift in games is the games that I play now tend to be games that require I mean, not even require, like demand that I don't prep anything.
Well, the next game we're playing is the game, the module I wrote and designed, and
Right, so
B, it's already in Foundry, and C, I know it pretty well, so hopefully the prep will be pretty minimal because
Right.
it's my own module.
I think it will. It also like it does a lot of the prep for you, which is very
No, I
handy.
know,
when
I
I've been
know.
prepping it, at least.
Yeah, no, I know. And my players are pretty low key and that sort of stuff, but
But like, so like, let me give an example. Like, so one of the games I'm probably going to bring to Origins is a John Harper micro indie game called Danger Patrol. And Danger Patrol is like a 1950s Buck Rogers, kind of like retro futurism, Art Deco sci-fi game. And the GM starts with a scenario, like an opening teaser, the players are imprisoned and the Empress of the Crystal Empire says, open the gates and release them to their fates. And then like you see 5 crystalline arachnids come out, and it's like, then cue the intro music. And then it goes to like previously on Danger Patrol. And you go around the table and you ask each player to sort of give a scene that happened in a previous episode. But this is a one shot. So you've never played before. So they're literally making up scenes from previous sessions that you didn't play. And, like when you watch like a movie, a TV show where they're like, last time on blah, 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 and they show scenes to kind of catch you up. The players are literally being forced to come up with ideas that they want to see in this session that the GM then will then incorporate into the ongoing game. So the prep, if anything, happens, in situ at the session, and it's not even the GM doing it, it's the players. And I love that. But then people go, "Oh, my players aren't going to do that. My players are just going to go,
I was literally about to say my players will not do that. You took the words out of my mouth because they won't. They won't do that.
Well, that's crazy to me. Like, what are they playing for?
They like combat.
Would you like rolling
for combat? Literally.
No wonder Steven calls it roll for combat. It's because of his players.
They love it. They can't get enough of it.
He sent a super chat that says this is why we will get AI GMs. It's probably based on
they're called
50 to 1 ratio.
Video games, by the way. It's like we already have them. So
no, you know what I'm waiting for? Here's what I'm waiting for. A lot of people said, "Oh, AI DMs," and then people go, Nin's like, "I want AI players." No, we need the next level, okay? Because
it's called actual plays where you watch everyone.
Right. But it's just AIs. It's not Matt.
Oh,
it's
AIs
not Matt
playing AIs.
Yeah. No, it's
That's
AIs playing with AIs, and you're just watching it happen. You're like, "Oh, look at it."
They did a Black Mirror on that, by the way.
AI actual plays.
Yeah, AI actual plays.
Well, I got one better. It's AI's actual plays that are beamed into your brain while you sleep, so you watch it while you're sleeping. There you go.
Because one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life happen. Not craziest things. I've seen some crazy.
I'm like, really?
I've seen some things.
Okay. Really?
One of the craziest gaming things I've seen in my life was a couple years ago at Origins. Me and Smith were walking through the halls, and we see this booth, and they're selling audio.
I think you've already told me this story.
Yeah, they're selling audio tapes of adventures. But what it is they are taking like renowned D&D, like not renowned, but they're taking like Curse of Strahd or Tyranny of Dragons, and they're like, it's not like a novelization of it. It's like a pretend version of people playing it.
It's like an audio tape of a fake podcast.
Yes, it's an audio tape of a fake game session that never happened, and it's like that way you get to pretend like you played it. And people are basically like, "Oh, I've always wanted to play this adventure, but I never got to, so I'm going to listen to other people pretending to play it." So they're not really playing it. It's not like an actual play. It's like a fake play. And there was people were buying this stuff, and I went, "What is going on? This is crazy.
Are they still in business? Come on, they can't be.
Of course not, but I'm sure they're not. But like, come on, Steven. No offense to us, as we were just at a booth of PAX, and shout out to all of our PAX fellow exhibitors. How many of those people are going to be in business in a couple of years? I mean, they may have a chance now because the tariffs.
I don't know.
No comment.
Yeah, no comment. All I know is we were very busy.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is it's like, yeah, like, so yeah, the idea of like someone buys an adventure module, they put it into an AI, and then they say, okay, I want you to create a script pretending that there's 4 PCs and 1 GM playing this adventure. I want to give them all voice acting, and then I want you to play it back to me, and we'll go from there. Yeah, but the Dead Elves Wives Club skits were like deliberately comedic and kind of memey and over the things. They're right by the Cheetos. I told you. Well, if there's any girls there, I want to do them. It's hilarious, but
that was fantastic, by the way.
Yeah,
also they were 5 minutes long, and they were written by Mark Harmon. I mean,
yeah.
Mark Harmon. Yeah, Mark Harmon. So,
yeah. Where's the Mountain Dew? In the fridge. I told you.
I've listened to that a trillion times.
I've listened to that a trillion times.
I love it. I never get bored of it too.
my favorite
Are
version is
girls there?
Yeah. Yes.
Am I drunk?
Roll the die. Oh, cool. I'm drunk.
It's like, I want to hit on him. I attack the darkness.
Right. I cast magic missile. What are you casting magic missiles for? I attack the darkness. No, all right, okay. An elf shows up and he has blue eyes. No, I don't. I have gray eyes. Let me see your character sheet. Well, it says I have blue eyes, but I decided I had gray eyes. Okay, fine. There's an elf here with gray eyes. You can talk to each other now. Hello. I am Gallstaff, Sorcerer of Light. Then why'd you have to cast magic missile? All right,
and then everyone laughs. Well, actually, the intro of that's even better. It's like, you've heard all about Dungeons and Dragons and how it's satanic and evil and will corrupt your kids. Let's look at a live session.
On my soundboard, on my nice Alaska soundboard, is Dungeons and Dragons, Satan's game. That's from that. Anyways. But in any case, my point is...
but I cast Morgan Cannon's Faithful Watchdog.
No, but you said, do I need material components? And I do. I need material components to cast Mordecai's Watchdog. So I cast Mordecai's Watchdog. Well, okay, fine, but there are ogres here. Ogres? I have an ogre slaying knife. It's plus 12 versus ogres. No, you're at the bar getting drunk. Okay. Well, if there's any girls there, I want to do that. That's a great skit. Point is, not that, like actual. I actually prefer this. Not a lot of people have heard the sequel, but I actually like the sequel kind of better.
There's a sequel?
Oh, yes, with Titania. Because the one guy, Mark brings his girlfriend Sarah to the session, and they go, "You can play as Titania," and he's like, "I thought Titania was your character. I don't care who plays Titania." And this is the best line of all time, because she gets upset and leaves, and he goes, "You just can't bring your girlfriend and expect to play her. For God's sake, Mark, this is advanced."
Wait, what's it called? I want to look this up.
I don't know. Dead Ale's Wives Watchtower Part 2. Anyway, it's so good. Well, you know what? For those of you who are wondering what the hell we're talking about, we will play both of them on my next stream for sure. So it's tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll watch it. We'll watch it together, and
part 1 and part 2 with Titania. Oh my god!
Yeah, with Titania. Yes.
I gotta watch this.
How did you get out? I took my portable hole and wrapped it around myself inside out.
Satan's game.
Do that? Oh, that's creative. I'm not worried about my creativity. I'm the dungeon master. Every potion you drank, I mixed. Every magic item you found, I put it there. So right now you're roasting in the fiery belly of a red dragon. So you need to ask yourself where your priorities lie. Oh,
I think we lost Derek. I think Derek's like in a little.
I think he's been lost into that skit. So maybe we.
I know. He's going on and on.
Cut the show here, or he's just gonna completely repeat the entire.
Let's do the whole thing.
Let's do the whole thing. It's like it's Knights of Last Call shadowing.
Well, all I was gonna say is my favorite version. My favorite version of it. My favorite version of it is somebody did a version of it, and they used the 8-bit theater characters to do it, and that was really really good. And they like fighter and black mage and stuff like that. So, anyways, good stuff.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, I think we covered the topic and side tangents. Do we have any more mini topics?
No, I'm starving. I've got to go eat.
All right. Then everyone, until next time, if you want to battle the zoo, you have to roll for combat. Take care. We'll see you next week.